It's midnight. You are tired, but you aren't sleeping. Instead, you're building a life you don't have, one click at a time. You're scrolling through a luxury clothing site or an Amazon wish list, adding items to your cart with an intensity that feels almost like productivity. You compare specs, you choose the perfect color, you read the reviews as if you're actually going to spend that $500. By the time you close your eyes, you have spent $3,000. But the next morning, your bank account hasn't moved, and that cart sits there, abandoned, like a ghost town. We call this digital window shopping, but psychologists have a different name for it: fantasy shopping. It is a specific behavioral quirk where the act of selecting gives you more pleasure than the act of owning. Today, we are analyzing the psychology of people who fill their carts just to feel something, and why clicking buy actually ruins the high.
Why do we do this? Why spend hours selecting items we know we won't buy? The answer lies in how our brain processes rewards. You see, dopamine, the feel-good chemical, isn't actually about satisfaction. It's about anticipation. Evolutionary psychology tells us that the hunt is more stimulating than the feast. When you are browsing, filtering by price, low to high, or finding that rare vintage watch on eBay, your brain enters seeking mode. Every time you add an item to the cart, your brain registers it as a potential acquisition. For a split second, your subconscious believes you already own it. You get the dopamine spike of the purchase without the financial pain of the payment. It's a risk-free high. You're hacking your own reward system, getting the thrill of wealth while sitting in your pajamas with $0 leaving your account.
But there is a deeper, sadder layer to this. We rarely fill our carts with things we need, like toilet paper or batteries. We fill them with props for a character we want to play. This is the concept of the fantasy self. When you add that $200 yoga mat and organic juicer to your cart, you aren't buying objects, you are role-playing as a person who has their life together. When you add the high-end camera lens, you are pretending to be a successful creative professional. For that 20 minutes of browsing, you are not the person who is stressed about their job or lonely. You are the version of you who wears Italian leather and goes camping on weekends. The cart becomes a temporary holding cell for your dreams. Closing the tab feels safe, because as long as you don't buy it, the fantasy remains perfect. If you actually bought the yoga mat, you'd have to use it and fail. In the cart, the dream is safe. For many, this behavior isn't about fun, it's about anesthesia. Psychological studies link excessive browsing to emotional regulation. Just like some people eat comfort food when they're sad, others comfort browse when they are anxious. Let's look at a real-life example. Meet Sarah. Sarah feels out of control at work. Her boss is demanding, and her rent is overdue. When she opens a shopping app, she suddenly has total control. She is the chooser. She decides what is good enough. She has the power to say yes or remove. The repetitive motion of scrolling and clicking induces a mild trance state, similar to meditation but less healthy. It numbs the anxiety. If you find yourself filling carts after a bad argument or a hard day, you aren't shopping for products, you are shopping for a sedative. So why don't we just buy the things? Why do 70% of digital shopping carts get abandoned? It's called the pain of paying. The moment you have to enter your credit card number, the fantasy collapses. The dopamine of seeking is replaced by the cortisol of loss. But there is also the paradox of choice. When the items are in your cart, they represent possibility. The moment you buy them, you are locked in. What if a better version comes out tomorrow? What if you need that money for an emergency? The digital window shopper is often paralyzed by perfectionism. They want the feeling of the best option, but they are terrified of making the wrong choice. So, the safest option is to keep the items in purgatory, never owned, but never fully rejected. This behavior leaves a residue. Real-life hoarders fill their homes with newspapers and boxes. Digital window shoppers fill their hard drives and accounts with bookmarks, wish lists, and save for laters. I knew a guy who had a folder on his computer called Loft Apartment. He didn't have a loft, he lived in the small rental, but he had saved thousands of links to furniture that would fit this imaginary apartment. This digital clutter takes up mental RAM. Every time you log in and see that cart with 15 items waiting for you, it creates a subtle open loop in your brain, a task left unfinished. It drains your mental energy. You feel busy, you feel like you've been researching for hours, but you have accomplished absolutely nothing. It is productive procrastination at its finest.
So, are you a digital window shopper? If you are, here is the reality check. Your shopping cart is not a to-do list. It is not a vision board. The next time you find yourself filling a cart at midnight, ask yourself, what feeling am I trying to buy right now? Are you bored, lonely, feeling poor? Try the 24-hour empty rule. If you catch yourself fantasy shopping, force yourself to close the tab and empty the cart. Tell yourself, if I really want this life, I will take a real step toward it tomorrow, not just click a button tonight. Real satisfaction doesn't come from the idea of things. It comes from engaging with the reality you actually have. Clear your cart, close the tab, go to sleep.